Welcome to Industry Insights with Route Consultant, your front row seat to the fast-moving world of logistics and beyond. Each week, we bring you game-changing insights, real-world strategies, and fresh perspectives to fuel smarter investments and build stronger businesses. Join us as we sit down with expert guests to explore emerging trends and pressing topics across a wide range of industries. This is Industry Insights. All right, welcome back again to Dave and Amy Byers. And this session, I want to really dive into something that we haven't touched on quite yet, but I want to talk about how you keep your company, your drivers accountable. And I think to start with that, when we talk about accountability, what does that mean to you when I say that word?
So we actually dive in a little bit differently when we talk about tasks and job duties are more responsibilities, right? A job description is a job duty, but accountability is a commitment to the end result. So that, again, comes from the top down of what we're accountable for as employees of Slicker Trucking, as delivery drivers for our customer FedEx Ground, FedEx Express. So what does that look like? And I think the big piece of running a company with accountability in mind is communicating what those expectations are, the end result, not just the tasking, right? Because we do a good job of the job description. You need to deliver the box, you need to load the box, you need to scan the box, you need to take a picture of the box, and you do it with a smile on your face, right? Yeah. So, and don't hit anything in the meantime. So we know that there's things that are very job and task oriented, but if you communicate to your employees and share with them kind of what the end result is, what is FedEx really expecting? What are our customers really expecting? It changes that game between tasking and really providing a better day's work and better overall service to not just the customer, but to Slicker, right? To our company. Are you doing the best job? And again, you could be a very good tasker, but maybe the culture is not there. Maybe the care for the end result isn't there. So I think those are the two different, caring about the outcome. So the service, right, is a number, but overall outcome. Did you complete your day? Did you help your neighbor? Did you, were you a good team member that day? Different than did you deliver 100 boxes? Yeah. So a little bit different. So just a kind of baseline of how we see it.
And have you always run things that way? Did you find yourself, initially just focused on tasks and you had to retroactively build in accountability, or has it been something you tried to ingrain from day one?
We try to put it in from day one, but but it doesn't always go as planned. Yeah. Right. So you try to be accountable to everybody. You're accountable to the drivers. You're accountable to the terminals. You're accountable to everybody.
I think we've always been accountable, right? We hold ourselves accountable. Yeah. So we hope that that is, lead by example, kind of, right? But I think 2 years ago, we did actually our big company meeting where we get all of our contracts together. Yeah. All P&D, line haul, custom critical, we're all in one building. And we actually had a conversation about the difference between accountability and responsibility and how it is more of a belief system and a culture which you're not really hiring for all the time, right? Like you hire drivers to drive safe and deliver boxes. And now you want me to be a good person and care, like what, right? Like why is that part? Why can't I just come to work and do my job? Yeah. But so having a little bit of a different mix, it changes the way your business will function and it's changed the way we function. But we actually had to have a meeting to explain the difference between your job duties, and you can be really good at your job but not be accountable, right? You can check the boxes but not be accountable to service or to doing your pre-trip. What does that look like? Well, I can go through and I can check my oil and I can look at my lights and whatever, but are you accountable to driving in a safe truck and accountable to our maintenance team to making sure you're reporting things timely and accountable to the road and the people on the road, your passengers that you're driving, because your truck has been looked over every day. And that's a difference, right? Between checking the box and saying like, oh, I'm in ground cloud. Yep. Did my pre-trip. Or are you really accountable to what it means and the importance of the tasks that I'm asking you to do?
Yeah.
So that's just a quick kind of example, but I don't think it's intuitive.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely a shift in culture over the last couple years. And a lot of that is to do with the employee base as well. Since COVID, things have changed even in who we're hiring. The availability of jobs, internet and ability to make money at home and the quick change and Uber and things like that where you're able to make a quick buck. It's changed the people that we hire. Okay. So we can't just train them on our expectations of the job duties. We actually have to train them on what we expect from them from an accountability standpoint as well.
Okay. So have you found that it's something that they don't, they won't do enough if you just give them the job responsibilities? Like I know that it's a changing customer or employee base, but what have you found is so important about training them on accountability?
So when you train someone on accountability and they bring the boxes back, right? The difference between someone that does their job, that kind of does the basic, right? Just to check the boxes, and someone that's truly accountable is, say, that one no scan you find at the end of the day and it's 4:30 and you're like, I'm going back.
Yeah.
Right? Or are you accountable to a clean truck? Right? Are you accountable to full service? Did you do everything that you could to do the best that you were supposed to do that day? So the guy that's accountable is going to go back, right? He's going to get that customer their package. Again, with the pre-trip, do you kind of wing through it, or do you do a full pre-trip because you know that this means that the maintenance team is going to catch maybe breaks before their calipers and rotors? Like, that's an expense. So if you're accountable to the end result of helping us stay, not just check the box because the pre-trip is required by the DOT and our contract and all those things, but are you accountable to helping us maintain our trucks, keeping us on schedule, maintaining an affordable PM schedule, right? And where we're maintaining trucks that are, so that's the difference, if that makes sense.
It does.
Accountability. So training people on that end result, which then provides us more money and more funds when we're proactively identifying things from a service. And you do everything well at FedEx, you'll get growth opportunities, so that provides more revenue. If you're changing brakes instead of a deeper maintenance situation, you're saving money, which all provides more revenue or more net revenue, right? Where you can actually spread some things around, raises, things like that. If you understand that you're driving in a neighborhood and you are accountable to keeping people safe, right? You're a professional driver.
Yeah.
Then you will take your time and not rush and not hit things and not cause damage because you care about the people around you. You care about the neighbors that you're delivering to. It's a different accountability between I'm just driving and I have to watch where I drive, right? I have to get in the driveway without hitting anything.
Yeah.
That needs to happen,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah.
That needs to happen.
That's baseline, yeah.
But there's a difference. It's a shift in thinking between my job tasks and really caring about what I do. But it comes from a deeper place. How do I know that?
Yeah.
So that's, how do you communicate those things to your staff to get them in that shift of responsibilities versus accountability? And what does that mean to the contract? And what does it mean to your end results? So I think, sharing that information, it's the only way you're going to get there.
Yeah.
They have no idea why.
And so how do you get that kind of buy-in on an ongoing basis? What are the conversations you have with a driver to, you've had these training, but now we're in the thick of it. How do you kind of remind them of what accountability means and kind of holding them accountable to the things that you need them to?
So accountable in the terminal, right?
Yeah.
We could talk about that. The drivers, we go in. Maybe when I'm there, I pop the hood on every single truck.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
I trust that they do their pre-trips, but I'm just holding them accountable that they are actually, checking the oil. They have to at least put the hood down, right?
Right.
So
yeah.
so
intentionally say, I'm not doing
that's easy
this.
accountability.
Yeah.
And that's kind of indirect because I don't even have to say like, hey, did you do a pre-trip inspection today? It's just I go in before anyone's there, pop all the hoods, and they at least verify that there's an engine under the hood.
Yeah. But they know you've been there.
But they know that I'm holding them accountable for that. Same with packages at the end of the day. We go in and we check the trucks at the end of the day and make sure that they did go back and that they were accountable to themselves to go back at 4:30 and deliver that last package. And if they didn't, we can go in and see that. but we have to have the conversation with them to hold them accountable for that.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to just say, well, it's only one package.
Yeah.
But when you have 40 drivers and it's one package at every truck, that's a big deal, and that affects your service, and that affects the delivery process for the day.
Yeah.
So you have to hold them accountable, and it's easy to have conversations, right? All you're doing is your reaction to their action, right? They didn't deliver the package, so we are reacting to that package not being delivered for the day. So when you break it down, you think about it like that, it's really an easy conversation to have, because all you're doing is holding them accountable to kind of hold themselves accountable.
Yeah.
So we do that on a daily basis, and hopefully the managers, they're leading the team the same way. But it's just an easy conversation that you have to have with all the drivers on a daily basis, and you can't just say, oh, it's not that big of a deal. You have to take everything that, and it's okay to have the conversation. And sometimes they don't even know. Yes. They don't even know that it's an issue.
Safety meetings are a great place for it too, because when you bring on a new hire, right, it's a lot coming at them. Yeah. It's a lot of information, like driving the truck and, doing the pre-trip and delivering the boxes and the scanner and the ground cloud and circling the maps and doing all the things that they do, and then pictures and all the things, right? There's a lot for them to learn. So circling back sometimes and reinforcing that this is the why, right? This is why the PPOD is so important. They're like, it's a picture. Yeah. And I could say, it's only a portion of 10% of the metals. Who cares, right? And I'm focusing on this stuff. But I think when you hold them accountable and teach them the why, you don't have to worry about the difference between responsibility and accountability. They get the end result. Mm-hmm. This is my expectation of the end result, and I need you to care about the end result. The job tasks are how we're going to get it done.
Right.
But we really need you to care about, why this is so important. And I think Dave, and sometimes they have to hear it at a safety meeting, or they have to hear it from a different person. They're interacting with your BC quite a bit. So if there's something that we're seeing as a pattern, and I think, Josh, we talk about this sometimes, where if you're not doing great in one area, you're probably not doing great in another area. Yeah. So it gives us an opportunity to sit down with a driver and say, like, hey, man, I need you to tighten things up with this. And this is why. Like, it's important. FedEx is watching. They're holding me accountable when you don't do this. Mm-hmm. And your name is on the list pretty often. So I need you to button it up. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden the light bulb goes off and they're like, yeah, I have been not really doing a great job of that. And I didn't realize that made it all the way up to your desk, Dave.
Yeah. Well, because ultimately, their name's on a list, but every list that FedEx has, your name is at the top of it.
It's us.
So, and I want to come back, you kept saying it's easy to have that conversation. It's not. It may be an easy conversation in terms of actually having it, but the easy thing is to not have a conversation.
That's the easiest.
Yes. And so the fact that I think that's really important to make sure, when you have these, the fact that you actually have conversations with your employees is important. I think a lot of people think of this as, I've got drivers that, they turn over quickly. So my time is, I've trained them on the front end and then I just expect them to do their job. But you actually have to have recurring conversations and continue to correct them on their mistakes. Whether it's the BC or you as the AO, they are people. This is, for some of them, they may be thinking about it as temporary, but you do want them to continue to think of this as more than just a quick thing that they're doing. And the way you do it is by building in a vision of what the overall company is and where they can go with it and how it all fits together and matters, and that you care. Yep. Because they won't care if you don't.
Right. Yeah. And at first it is, you're right. It's easy for me now because I've done it so much. But at first it is uncomfortable. Yeah. And it could be a little bit tricky, and it's tough because that's your driver.
Well, you don't want them to quit either.
Those are your boxes on the red.
Conversation.
So it is a tough conversation, but the more you have these conversations, the easier it does get. Mm-hmm. And after 19 years of being through this, it's easy for me to jump in a truck and have a conversation and be able to navigate it in the direction that driver doesn't walk out for the day. Yeah. And that we can kind of circle around and get to a solution that fixes the problem. So yeah, you're exactly right. The easiest thing is to just avoid the confrontation or the conversation and just let it go. But the problems only get worse from there. Correct. So you have to jump in. It's tough at first, have the conversation. It gets easier, and it gets way easier to to jump in and have those conversations.
And when you share the why, right? We talk about this why all the time. When you share the why from our contract, right? What we're held accountable to, ultimately, it's an easier conversation. I'm not just saying, well, that's how I want it, right?
Yeah.
I need you to take clearer, crisper pictures. I need you to, not yell at the customers and
you're
not
not
speed down
judging
their...
the artistic quality of their pictures.
Correct. We're not, and I'm not judging them based on some, arbitrary rules that I've made up in my head. These are contract regulations and standards, right? So I'm in the contract, I'm looking, and I share that with them. Like, hey, this is what our customer is holding me to. I need you to get there.
Yeah.
And it's a much easier contract because it's, even though it's personal, because it's me having it or Dave having it or our managers having it with a person, it's business, right? This is a deliverable, no different than when you punch in or punch out of a factory job.
Yeah.
There are certain things that you are held to, and you have to do it the way we need it to be done. So those conversations get a little bit easier when you share the why, explain it to them, and then you build that trust. The flip side of that is if you are not having those conversations and you lean on this, well, they're going to be turnover. Turnover these days is not cheap.
Yeah.
Right? Getting rid of people that are not doing the right thing, between what your state regulations are as far as how you terminate and, discipline and remediate and all the things that you're trying to do with an employee is a very lengthy process. Also, with our training process that we have to do, if you leave it to just the CT class, we use the first hour of our CT class to talk about who we are and the culture and accountability. So that's the first thing they learn before they even hear the first thing of our ground cloud CT class. They hear from us. Our managers talk about how to clock in. They talk about where to get their uniforms. They talk about all those things. They're going to make them a better employee in the end, right? But to turn over an employee because I didn't have the conversation, oh my gosh, that's $5,000 or $8,000.
Yeah.
Like that is expensive.
And
the time,
yeah.
and then losing them and not holding them up. And there's, like I always say, you're going to have some bad eggs that just don't care. They needed a job and that's all it is. But if you can get them to at least shift to buy into the why, they don't need to be all lovey and fuzzy and, kumbaya with the accountability. But if they can just be understanding of what they're held to, and push them just a little bit further to care, to go deliver that one box or to take better pictures or, to service the customer better, not, pay attention to the numbers on the side of the house so you deliver the right house, right? Like, yes, I know you can get the box from your neighbor, but they didn't order it. So all of those things, they're very small, ticky-tacky things that add up. But I think the overall arching thing that's new to this industry, I think, because we didn't even do it originally, is train on what the end result is and share with the driver what the customer expects of us. Yeah. We share very easily what the delivery customer, the homeowner, or the business expects of us, but we don't really get into what they're here to be a part of as a team to contribute to the success of what we do. And when that piece is missing, they're just bringing boxes back, or they're just miscoding a box, or it's just like one thing. It's just one thing.
There's no reason to hide the metrics that you're getting judged on by FedEx. It's one of those things of like, hey, this is the reality of what this is the sandbox we're playing in. Like, I'm exactly like what you said. I'm not being, arbitrarily annoying. Right. Like, there's a very real reason why I'm coaching you on this. It's because this is how the contract is paid. This is how I get judged by FedEx, and I'm having this conversation with you now, and I'm gonna have to go turn around and have the conversation with the terminal manager because of this. I'm like, you're welcome that you don't have to go talk to the terminal manager after this.
You're not in trouble yet. I'm in trouble right now, actually.
But
correct.
Yeah, I care about you, and I wanted to keep you here. But
So on the flip side of that, I think the end result is to hire with that in mind.
Yeah.
Right.
And how hard is that? How often are you talking about this? And then
it just changes the questions that you ask. And there's hiring companies. I'm dear friends with a couple of the hiring companies that are out there that are doing a great job. They're very much in line. We do all our hiring just because of the scale. We have the ability to do it. But you just change the questions that you ask, right? It's not about you still have to ask, do you have reliable transportation? And can you pass a drug test and all these fun things? But you actually have to take a little bit more time and talk to the person about, You know, has there been times where you've had to go above and beyond to make sure that you did the job right? Certain questions like that will trigger a conversation, and they actually get proud. You actually hear the tone in the person's voice, like, yes, I do remember. You know, it's not those questions that I had when I was young, and it was like, remember a time where you did something that, you know, and you're like, well, my positive is a negative and my negative is a positive. Like, we're not answering those kinds of interview questions. But can you ask different questions to trigger a deeper conversation to identify whether that person can fold into a culture of accountability versus just delivering packages? And I use this example when I talk about hiring people. I can teach a good person to be a good delivery driver, right? I cannot teach a good delivery person to be a good delivery driver to be a good person. Like, it's in you have to be a caring person. It's not rocket science what we do, but it does take a very careful person and a very responsible person. And that's where accountability that's where the rubber meets the road with accountability, is care and responsibility, right? And that's the person that we're hiring for now at Slicker. Now, I know, you know, it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but it definitely has changed the game for us. It's made our conversations with people easier. It's made our end results easier. Not always perfect, but it's definitely a different way in shifting from that responsibility to accountability.
Yeah. Have you ever weeded somebody out in those early questions?
Yeah. We can definitely tell and the answer is just, thanks very much, but we've chosen to go with other candidates. But yeah, there's definitely, and it's hard when you're like, I got a stack of boxes, and you have like 10 years experience with Amazon or whatever, delivery or, Cintas. I mean, really good experience, landscape company, they owned a business, and I'm like, and you still don't think like this? Yeah. So there are ways, but you have to be selective, because if you're not selective in the hiring process, what do you call it? Heartbeat in a seat. If you are not selective in who you are bringing on your team and who you are putting shoulder to shoulder with your other drivers, they deserve you to take the time and to put the best person. Don't be selfish and just put someone in there that can deliver boxes and that takes a little bit of a load off your BC. It might get uncomfortable at first, right? But it's going to be a better fit in the long term. So I think hiring is definitely where the process starts. And if you can hire with accountability in mind, and it might take, if somebody's like, I don't know what you're asking me, you might have to explain the difference between responsibility and accountability and give them an example, that's even completely off base of delivery, just an example of the differences, and see how they react and see what, how the conversation goes. But we've definitely passed on people that I know could have gotten 100 stops delivered. And it worked out better. It's immediate pain, long-term gain. But and we're at a point in this industry where there's so many, like we've talked about, there's so many little things that you have to keep on top of, that if you have somebody who doesn't care, doesn't have the right mindset, they might let a couple little things slip that don't feel like a big deal, but it can be over the course of a few weeks or months, and it can really impact the contract. And it wouldn't have cost them much time or energy to do it. It's just they didn't. And so those early time and energy on the front end, but also the investing the time on an ongoing basis to really dig in with your employees and say, this is what we need, this is why. I think it's very, even if you're willing to have those conversations, it's really easy to focus on this is what I need. And to leave out the this is why. And that is not the right way to continue to craft a culture and a person that is learning, why the business is functioning the way it is, why things matter. And ultimately, those are the types of people who embrace that mindset that are people you can continue to promote and graduate to higher responsibilities, because they understand how everything fits together. We find that there's a better response to this type of management than just kind of knocking people over the head because the boxes aren't delivered correctly. So really giving that why.
And the knock over the head is a gut reaction that you want to give.
It's like, hey, pay attention. But I also think that there's a time where FedEx is actually allowing us to have these conversations at an early onset by giving us access to Spotlight, by giving us access to some of the, in Express, some of these time definite reports. You can really identify patterns early. So it's not like, hey, dude, you do this every day for the last 3 months. Like, it's not an afterthought. This is like, ongoing, quick hit, like, hey, dude, you're doing a great job, but if you can just focus on this a little bit, it'd be great. Yeah. And then share, and because this is why we need you to do it, whether that's our maintenance team needs to catch things early, or FedEx customers need to see the results, or FedEx is, harping on Dave and we were getting emails, whatever that why looks like, right? But the idea is that I think FedEx is in sync with us to get those conversations happening right away, instead of waiting until it's become a real problem.
Well, it's tough too when you have the conversation and they say, well, I've been doing it like this for months.
Yep.
It's hard to change that habit because it's already been kind of ingrained into them. So the sooner you catch it, the sooner you address it, the sooner it gets fixed instead of letting it become
a pattern.
Yeah, the pattern.
Yeah.
We have that with either people that have left FedEx contractor and then come back, and then they've come back with us, or maybe it's a contractor that had too many staff, or even the driver needed medical benefits, so they hopped over with us, had a good conversation. We always have the right transition. We're not poaching, but there are times where contractors, other drivers will come to us. We've actually put a complete stop to it in one contract. But when drivers do come over from another contractor, we tell them, like, I get that everything looks good on the outside, but we are not easy. Yeah. So, and they're like, well, I'm good. I'm like, no, you're going to go through like 3 days of training. Yeah. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, like, this is different. I know you know how to deliver the boxes, but then that training of somebody that's been in the industry is all about, breaking bad habits and teaching how we do things at Slicker, and the accountability that comes with being a team member. Yeah. And sometimes it works, and sometimes right out of the gate, they're like, yeah, that's a lot. I'm out. I just want to come and deliver packages. And I'm like, well, that's thank
the
you.
culture we're building.
And
thank you for telling us.
Thank you for telling us that. That's awesome. And and I'm not saying you need to be, like I said, all lovey-dovey and loving on your neighbors, but we need you to be accountable to each other, to our maintenance crew, especially since we do the maintenance ourselves. It's a huge savings. And because they're part of the Slicker team, it's really more direct responsibility to that team, that maintenance team, that it would be if it was, some external maintenance team, like, we're just going to fix it. Yeah. So it's just, it kind of goes full circle. So, but it's definitely, the piece of the training has to be part of it. And if you hit it in the beginning of, it has to be 99.3, like, a lot of people I've talked to, they're like, I don't even know what the contract says. And I'm not going to give it to you, but but I am going to, give you a couple things, even things like, do they know what they're held to as far as speeding? And like the why, like, do you know that I'm going to have to suspend you for 3, 6, 9, 36 months if you continue to do this? Yep. Right? Like, what does that look like? And if they don't know the why, then they're just speeding. It's just, I don't have any tickets. It was just 2 points. It's not a big deal. I'm like, it actually is a big deal. Yeah. So, and if it's over 5 miles an hour, it's a DOT infraction. And if you're in the truck and you get a DOT, if you speed and then get the DOT inspection, what does that look like? All these things can spur from just not communicating and not educating them on what we do. And it is a difference. It's not just a driving job. This isn't just Uber. It's not just DoorDash. You are a professional driver. And there's some accountability that comes with that.
And ultimately, it always comes back to how FedEx is holding you accountable. If they've given you all these tools and they're expecting you to hold your drivers accountable, that's why it also is, you're going to have less ground when you're talking to FedEx if there's been a pattern over the last few months that you didn't correct. That's why it's even more important to be invested in managing and monitoring all of these tools so that you catch it early, not just to correct the habits, but to show that, I knew this was a problem and I fixed it, rather than, it's hard to come back to that conversation with FedEx where they say, hey, you've had a safety or a service issue for a while, and we can see that you've had 4 drivers with a long pattern, and can you show that there was any coaching or any kind of behavior check? And, if the answer is no, that's a hard conversation. So it's the same. You've got to be able to present that to FedEx.
Yeah. So, but I think it's all full circle.
Yep. So I think it's a great kind of mindset shift, conversation point for people to understand. This isn't just a talking point. If you want to be successful, if you want your drivers to become more than just, the 3-month turnover box checkers, you've got to make sure that they're learning how the business works and why, and that you're holding them accountable so that ultimately you can hold yourself accountable to FedEx and be successful.
Absolutely.
Right. Perfect. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for another great topic.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.